Hello and welcome to On Point. I'm Ethan Hanson. Opera, a centuries-old art form, is looking for ways to stay engaged with younger audiences. Under the leadership of music director Juan Musotto, the opera has taken center stage at Cal State Northridge. Musotto is coming off of her directorial debut after conducting Circe, the latest opera performance at CSUN about twisting romantic affairs in Persia. It takes a team to stage an opera between makeup, costume, set designers, and a technical crew. More than 100 people are at work behind the scenes. Add in the orchestra, vocalists, and performers along with Musotto and her colleague opera director Ray Sarr, the entire crew and cast work with precision. Los Angeles is home to the fifth largest opera company in the country. The LA Opera's Young Artist Program introduces new performers and helps them find opportunities and an audience. The Opera Camp has given tens of thousands of elementary and middle school children an opportunity to discover the timeless art form themselves. Both CSUN and the LA Opera hope to introduce opera to new audiences. On Point's Amaya Milan Wright has more on the story.
Thank you, Ethan. Today I have with me Mercedes Musotto, the CSUN Director of Opera, and I also have with me Stacy Brightman, who is the VP of Educational and Community Outreach at the LA Opera. Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for having us.
So let's hop right into it.
Great.
Opera has been around for centuries, and yet and still young people have so much access to the internet but aren't really exposed to it. Why is that? What is the disconnect? Stacy, I would like to start with you, and then Mercedes, I would love for you to follow up.
Sure. Oh my goodness gracious. Well, you're right. Opera's been around for 400 years, a little bit more actually. And what's kind of awesome is it sort of started as an experiment by, frankly, a bunch of college students, the Florentine Camerata, and they were goofing around, and it was really these intellectuals, and they were wanting to explore, well, what had Greek drama been like? If we could do Greek drama, what would that be? And so you got to love that it came out of this kind of youthful exploration of what would this ideal art form be. And this ideal art form would include drama, dance, music, sets, costumes, visual arts. And I think over the centuries, sometimes it's been a very popular art form. It's been a people's art form. And like anything that an art form, it has all kinds of valleys and peaks. And I find it really exciting because I'm not sure I agree with the premise of the question. We're in this extraordinary time right now where young interest in opera is surging. If you come down to LA Opera, you would see a wildly diverse, young, interesting, kind of hip, kind of fun crowd. And for instance, I'm actually in charge of bringing in everybody that's sort of college age and under, or helping them to come into the Opera House. And we have a waiting list for our program. So it's kind of a really exciting time. I'll just also say it's an exciting time in terms of here in Los Angeles, we've got some remarkable companies that are springing up who are looking at opera and reinventing the art form. Pacific Opera Project, Pasadena Opera, Four Larks, Girls School, just to name a few of the groups that are younger, incredible artists who are just cracking open the art form. I mean, and you know what? All opera is a story told with music. So whatever that means to somebody, that can be opera.
I totally agree with you. I think it might seem that opera is far away from young communities, but it's actually when you are sitting in an audition and you see this long list of singers trying to get a role, you can tell that it's actually opera is more alive than we think. So yeah, we have a very, very large voice program here in CSUN. And every time we call for auditions for our operas, it's super, we are overwhelmed by the amount of singers interested and their preparation and their excitement.
I hear there's a lot of people that are familiar with it, but for all the people that aren't, there's so many people that have no idea what an orchestra is, or what opera is, or what the chamber is. Can you give me a brief explanation on what those are?
Sure. Well, you know,
Mercedes, you can.
I don't want to jump on the question.
Yeah, you can begin.
So orchestra.
Yes.
So an orchestra is a group of several musicians. In an orchestra, you have several sections. You have the string section. Depending on the style, depending on the composer, that string section might be anything from 15 string players to 40, 50, 60 if you're doing Wagner, 15 if you're doing Handel, like we did. And those are violins, violas, cellos, and basses. Then you have a woodwind section that is actually about 6 to 15, and that's flutes, oboes, clarinets, bassoons, contrabassoons. And then you have the brass section, which is trumpets, horns, trombones, and the percussion, which is like percussion. You would say, you might think percussion, it's like just percussion. Percussion is one of the most important things, especially in modern opera, because they bring a lot of colors. That's orchestra. So then you said, what other thing you said?
I said chamber music.
Chamber music, it's the same thing, but smaller. So in chamber music, a lot of composers in the 17th, 18th century, 19th century, they compose music for smaller groups. So you have string quartets, which is one first violin, one second, one viola, one cello. Or you have a quintet, which is the same thing, plus a piano. And several different kind of combinations of that, plus woodwinds.
Yeah. I'll add something, which is, it's lovely that you are asking the questions, but it was also contextualized by, so how would a younger person who doesn't know anything about this, how would they approach it? You know, and I want to put out there too, you don't have to know any of that. Opera doesn't, you know, you can go to a movie and have a great time, and you don't have to know what the grip does. You don't have to know really what the camera operator is doing. You don't have to really understand what the makeup person or the wardrobe person is doing. You can just go and have the experience, and it doesn't matter if you know that language, that vocabulary at all. Opera is exactly the same way. You don't have to know any of that. And you know, you just go, and it's an experience of all of these arts together, and relax, enjoy it. You know, anybody who might be a first-time opera goer has your opinion, your experience of it, your emotional response to it is as completely valid as anybody else's, whether or not they have, you know, their doctorate in it or not, or it's their first time. So, and what's kind of, again, exciting is, you know, we just described maybe a little bit of a traditional configuration of what an orchestra might, the instruments in an orchestra. Oh my goodness. Recently, just in the past year, I've also seen electric guitar in opera. I've seen electric piano. I've seen percussion being created on, tables and found objects. So, you know, it's all of those things.
That's great. So Stacy, I also want to follow up. I know you said that opera has been around for about 400 or even longer. Can you give me a little bit more information on the origins of opera and exactly where it started?
Sure. And of course, I've got a professor with me, so correct me if I go astray. But as I said, it really started off as this, if you will, avant-garde kind of experiment. We oftentimes talk about it happening right around 1598, 1600 in Florence. And there was a group called the Florentine Camerata, which is this kind of group of wild intellectuals who wanted to see, well, what would the perfect art form look like? Well, maybe it looked like what the ancient Greeks did. And the ancient Greeks, in terms of theater, created works that had this enduring power that spoke to everybody in the audience. And these audiences could have been 20,000 people if you go to the theater at Athens. And they were just, you know, nobody had a camera running, so we don't know exactly what that work was like. But we know it had music and it had drama and dance. And so in Italy, this experiment of these kind of wild young intellectuals led them to experiment, and they kind of created the germ of what we recognize as opera. So it was an attempt to to play with, well, what was this ideal art form? The funny, I always, for me at least, it's funny. The interesting thing is, meanwhile, over in France, there are similar intellectuals experimenting and having the same kind of conversation. Well, what was Greek drama really like? What was and they invented an art form because they put more emphasis on the dance and the movement, and that's the birth of ballet. So ballet and opera are born at the same time in different countries by young people.
Hand in hand.
Yeah.
Mercedes, would you like to add a little bit before we
I
move on to
would
our
add
discussion?
that then, so we have opera and we have ballet, then we have, because of that, the combination is grand opera, French grand opera, which
Yeah.
are 5-6 hour long operas
Spectacles.
with like all these like fireworks and and a lot of singing, a lot of dancing, a lot of movement. Those operas are probably not produced as much anymore because they are super expensive and long. But yeah, so.
When people actually learn about opera, they do like it. Let's listen to what these students in the program had to say.
I think the most common attitude towards opera is that it's like this elite, art form that, it's for older people and, it's not cool or something.
A lot of people aren't exposed to it anymore. So I feel like in a way it's kind of a responsibility on my end and then also my colleagues to bring it to people, even at school, because we're collaborating a lot with other departments and bringing something that's probably pretty unfamiliar to the other students. I mean, this opera was written, 300-something years ago, and so it's making it accessible and bringing out the emotions that are just a part of the human condition and bringing that out because you can relate to these characters, whoever you are.
It's pure expression of human emotion. It's about love and betrayal and hate and things that are just common, things we feel, but it's expressed on like such a big level.
Mercedes, what show is CSUN's opera currently working on?
So we just finished Circe by Handel, and then we are having auditions this Friday for two Italian operas by Cimarosa. The wonderful thing about these two operas is that they have never been performed in the States before. So we will be the first ones
That's
in
amazing.
the country to perform them. They are, one is L'impresario in angustia, and the other one, which is L'impresario in pain, and the other one is Gli sposi per accidente, which is the marriage by accident. They are both hilarious comedies, and they have a lot of small roles and more important roles. So I chose these operas because we will have the opportunity to give an opportunity to a lot of singers. We have around 35 opportunities here, and it's not chorus.
And tell me how the program started here.
So the program started a lot of years ago, probably 50 years ago. The program was very, very important and very well known when David Scott was running, when he was the opera director. And actually under his guidance, several singers, very prestigious singers, graduate, like Carol Vanes, like Michelle Lejeune. Actually, also Shigemi Matsumoto. She's actually a voice teacher right now at CSUN. We are super, super happy to have her with us. So the program started with him. He ran the program for 30 years, and then Professor David Axe ran it for a lot of years, and his wife and Waltz. And then Professor Dr. Rochinio for a lot of years. So yeah, this program has been around for a lot of years. And the wonderful thing about this program is that we try to target everything. So we have, of course, all the singers have their individual voice teacher and weekly voice lessons, but they also have diction classes. They have performance technique classes. There is something called opera workshop, so they get to perform small scenes from different operas and put together a show. So they slowly get familiar with opera without being overwhelmed with, oh my gosh, I have to perform a whole opera, a 2 hours opera, and I have to memorize 2 hours of music. So instead of having them go through that right away, we give them the opportunity to learn small scenes and take a few semesters doing that, and then slowly we take them to that. And that's why I'm so excited about these 2 Italian operas we are doing next semester, and we open on April 4th. We are actually in the process of translating them because they have never been translated into English, and they are super, super hard to translate because they are in Italian, all Italian, Napolitan, and Roman. So I'm very excited about that.
You know, I would want to, jump in. Anytime anybody performs opera, it's an event. I mean, and it should be treated as kind of a crazy event that opera happens, because one of the things that many people may not know about opera is in terms of opera singing. And opera singers, unlike, you know, whoever your favorite rock band or pop singer might be, your students will be singing this extraordinarily complex music with an orchestra, sometimes in front of a chorus, without microphones. Opera is sung without microphones. So if you come on down to the Dorothy Chandler Pavilion, you'll see people who are on a par with world-class athletes, because the energy, the athleticism that it takes to harness, and the training to be able to sing out and fill a house of 3,100 seats with just your voice, with the power of your voice. Again, over an orchestra, in front of a chorus, it's extraordinary. It's actually one of the reasons why opera, when you look at our schedules, we're not performing Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. You know, we don't do 6 or 7 performances in a week, because that would be like running 6 or 7 marathons.
That would be very intense.
It would be pretty challenging.
Yeah, and that's why, Stacy, I was going to ask you, why is the art form of opera so important? But you're kind of telling me about it right now, so.
Oh my God, because it's sort of the sum of all the art forms. It's greater than all of its parts. And there's so many ways to fall in love with it. If you fall in love with just beautiful music, we got that for you. If you want extraordinary costumes and effects and gorgeous scenery, we got that too. My background is theater, so I love a story that grabs my heart and won't let go. And opera has that as well. So it's sort of got, you know, there are all these different doorways and windows in which to fall in love with opera. And even if you just want to fall in love with the extraordinary, like I said, the athleticism of the performance, the virtuosity of the performance, there's that option too.
There is something that always fascinates me. Every time I'm like about to start a show, I have my baton, everything, I have the headsets, so I'm ready, I'm waiting for the stage manager to tell me, go. I love to imagine how many people are behind the scenes making this happening. And for Thursday, we were talking that for Thursday we have about 100 people behind the scenes making it work. So crew, helpers on stage management, light people. So it's amazing.
A lot of people contribute.
People
contribute.
Yeah.
Well, I thank you all for giving me a little bit about opera, not just me, but the audience as well. Make sure you all stay with us. We will have more. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
You.
Welcome back. I now have with me Xochitl Hernandez, who is a CSUN vocal performance student, and I also have Leslie Perkins, who is a vocal performance grad student. Thank you all for being here.
We're happy to be here.
Thank you, thank you. So I want to know, how did you all fall in love with opera?
I think that the love for opera comes from the fact that we love to sing. And so when we're up there singing beautiful works by Mozart or Handel or any other composer, that's just where the love comes from.
Leslie?
Yeah, I got my love for opera actually kind of from the LA Opera. My whole family is musical, and my sisters sing, and so that's something I've always been around. But I went and saw a production at the LA Opera when I was a teenager, and the orchestra started playing, and it was amazing, and the set was beautiful, and then the performer started singing, and I was just blown away, and I feel like that was kind of where my love for opera started.
Yeah, I definitely think that the power of opera and just music and singing in general, it's just such a powerful tool. Like, it's a language that supersedes like all languages and all barriers. And I know so many people that don't even know what the opera is about or what the music can be about, because there's so much music in many different languages. But to hear someone sing, or to hear an orchestra, to hear anything like that, it can just move people to tears. So that's what's most fulfilling for me as a singer and as an artist.
You said a lot of people are still working on the familiarity with opera. So I want to know, opera is basically still in a steady incline with popularity amongst millennials. Do you feel like opera would do better if they had collaborations with pop culture?
Absolutely, yeah. I think that something that I would like to do in my career is see fusion of different genres of music with opera for people to understand better, and it's just more interesting in my opinion. Like, for example, mariachi music, there's now mariachi operas, and a lot of people know about mariachi music, especially with our huge Latino population. So with mariachi operas, we're able to bring two worlds together.
Leslie?
Yeah, I definitely think that, as she was saying, fusion of different styles would be beneficial because it can reach to a broader audience, and really we want people to enjoy what we do. So.
Leslie, have you faced any minor or major challenges throughout your journey in this field?
Oh, always. I feel like there are challenges in every field, no matter what you do, and it's one of those things that when it comes right down to it, when you face one of those challenges and it kind of, I don't know, where you question, is this right for me? It's those moments that kind of define if you're in the right place. Because when I face those challenges, sometimes I wish that it wouldn't happen, or I wish I could quit, but then really it's all worth it. You know, you're about to go on stage, you're performing, and you're like, nope, this is what I love.
Xochitl?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I completely agree with Leslie. I mean, for me, for example, I didn't start doing classical singing until I got to college, until I turned 18. I didn't really have training or anything like that. I just knew that I loved to sing. And so when I first got to CSUN, I thought to myself, well, I know nothing about classical music, nothing about opera or classical training or anything like that. So that's definitely been probably my biggest struggle with having to, just figure this all out. But I'm so blessed by my teachers and my mentors that are with me and have taught me so much. And when I look at the girl who was 18 and just wanted to sing, and to me, now I'm 20, I'll be 21 soon, it's just such an enormous growth, and I'm looking forward to all the growth I'm going to continue to do and all the battles I'm going to continue to face in this field.
Xochitl, were you a part of CSUN's production of Circe? And if you were, what was the story behind that?
I was a part of Circe. It's about King Circe, and it's kind of a love triangle going on with Amastre and, not Romilda, she was Romilda, and all the different things going on with like his brother and certain generals. There's a lot of love drama, which is a lot of opera storylines. So yeah, that's pretty much what it was about.
Leslie, were you in the show as well?
I was Romilda, and I always call it a love pentagon, because there was like so many things going on. It was kind of a convoluted plot, but it was really fun. It was double cast, and so it was really fun to be able to watch the performance, because normally if you're in something, you can't watch it. And so it was really fun. I got to watch the other cast do it. And so it was cool to follow along the story and kind of see how everything fit together. It was pretty cool. It was fun.
So take me through the journey of what it's like to be part of an opera, and what role do you all play?
Well, it's a very long journey. We go through learning the music, which can be a challenge in and of itself. But as musicians, we're trained to, you know, have the proper musicianship to be able to go through that as fast as possible. We go through staging, and then we have weeks, well, 2 weeks or 1 week of tech week, which is 6 to 10 or 6 to 11 every night. And I know one weekend we were there 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. And that's where they run through all the technical stuff of the opera and the lighting and things like that. So it's definitely a very long process. We started rehearsal in August, so.
Leslie?
Yeah, just what she was saying. I mean, I was just talking with a cast member, and now that it's all over, it's funny to look back, and it feels like it's been a year that we've been working on this. But yeah, we started out with our wonderful music director, Mercedes, and then we began staging with our staging director, Ray, and you know, all of the pieces coming together. It's really a gratifying experience to start where you're just the bare bones of the music, and then you develop that character and you add staging on top of that, and the set and the costumes and how that all comes together to create the show.
Really quick, where do you all think that the future of opera lies? Xochitl first, or Leslie?
Well, I think that it won't be in decline. I think that it will continue to be a profitable business. Opera, I mean, it's going back to the roots of composers in classical music. I think that in the future we'll see a lot more modern opera, such as like a lot more modern takes on like really old operas. And also, like I said before, like the fusion of genres with classical music. And we've already seen that with certain composers like Gershwin, who does a lot of jazz, and he has an opera, and that opera has a lot of jazz in that. So I think that's where that will go.
Yeah. And like Xochitl said, opera is timeless, and it may kind of go up and down in popularity, but I think that it'll always be around, and I hope that we can perform it in a way that appeals to a large audience.
Yes.
I want to thank you both for being here. It was such a pleasure. And that is all we have time for today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching On Point. You can follow us on social media at CSUN On Point. You can hear us on KCSN 88.5 FM on Sunday mornings at 5:30. You can watch us on Santa Clarita Valley Television on Sundays at 5 and on LA 36 at 9:30 on Thursday evenings. For all of us here at On Point, I'm Ethan Hanson.